Welcome to Talking Giants player profile and preview. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Panic. We're presented by John Boy Media. We got two players for you today. Justin, we're starting with Kevin Zeitler. But how you doing, man?
Doing very well. Kevin Zeitler, we can say he's a friend of the program, question mark.
Definitely a friend of the program. I don't think he wants to be like best friends with us, but he's a friend of the program. And his wife is definitely, she promotes our stuff. So the Zeitler family are friends of the program.
Yeah, that was going to be my fun fact about Kevin Zeitler is that Sarah Zeitler actually has bought some of our shirts. She likes the Hog Molly shirt, which I don't blame her. That's a pretty awesome shirt. It's got a lot of different styles, got a lot of different
Peter
colors.
King says that's an offensive term.
Oh, sorry, Peter King. But
Shut up, Peter King.
Sarah Zeitler apparently does not think so. She has bought the shirt. She posted a picture of herself wearing the shirt, which was awesome. And Kevin Zeitler came on the show. We had a nice little, maybe like 20, 25-minute conversation with him early in the offseason, friend of the program. I don't think, if Sarah Zeitler's listening to this, I don't think she would take offense to this. Kevin Zeitler is kind of a boring person, but that's kind of good if you're a football player, Bobby, because he's a worker, he's a grinder, he's very dedicated to his craft, and Kevin Zeitler's good. Happy to be talking about him.
Kevin Zeitler. All right, let's get into it. He's 6'4", 315 pounds. He's 30 years old. In 2012, he was the 27th overall pick in the first round by the Cincinnati Bengals. Justin, he enters year 9. He's got 2 years left on his deal, 2020 and 2021. In 2021, his cap hit is $14.5 million. The Giants would have an out. He'd only have $2.5 million dead cap, so they would save 12. But I don't think that will be an option. No. We'll talk about it a little bit. Obviously, he came over in the trade for Olivier Vernon, and when we got the interview, Kevin Zeitler, Justin, I had to take that. It was the most well-received Dave Gettleman move. Looking back now, it's probably Daniel Jones, but at the time, it was one of the first times where Dave Gettleman did something and everybody was just completely on board with it. I know some people saying it's a package with the OBJ trade. That just doesn't make sense to me, because if it was packaged with the Odell trade, then it would have been packaged with the Odell trade. It came out 2-3 days before.
Yeah, I guess besides Daniel Jones, the take that I actually was going to have, Bobby, is that this is Dave Gettleman's best move, because we literally turned a player that was not on the football field for us, was very expensive, and a guy that was a bit of a frustration. He wasn't a headache meeting in the locker room, but he was a headache just as like, we're waiting for Olivier Vernon to go back to what he did in 2016. And then we turned that player into Kevin Zeitler, to a guy that is so reliable. The past, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, he's played more than 15 games. Arguably should be kind of an all-pro guard. He's up there in that kind of caliber. I think this is Dave Gettleman's best move that he's made. And I know, offensive guards, they don't really get the glitz and glamour. Dave Gettleman didn't go out and trade for, a wide receiver that's come in and lit up the world on fire. But I really do think that this is Dave Gettleman's best move, because Zeitler's just so important to this line. I really think he anchors this offensive line.
I'll say Jones is the best move because it took ball. Like Andrew Thomas, I like that one more, but I don't view that as like, wow, what a great move. I view that as he's the best offensive tackle on the board. We need an offensive tackle. Where Jones took some guts to pull the trigger on that one. So I'll go Jones. And as QB is the most important position. Right. But this is second for I think this would be second for me. I'd have to go through every single transaction because someone would be like, well, you like this one more. But off rip, I'll say this one's number 2 for me. But Justin, Zeitler's consistent. He's missed one game in the last 15 years. That was the Miami Dolphins game, where Eli Manning had his last career win. I was at that game. He's a great pass blocker. That's what he is. A lot of times when you see like a top guard, you think this guy's going to be driving people 10 yards down the field. That's not who Zeitler is. But in the pass game, he is elite. I can only remember one bad play, and it was Khalil Mack who knocked him over. And I remember when we were doing our interview, I name searched Kevin Zeitler, and you can't find anything bad to say about Kevin Zeitler. He's really good in the pass game. I thought Mike Remmers benefited playing next to him at right tackle, and whoever plays right tackle this season will benefit playing next to Kevin Zeitler because he's a smart player and he's one of the hardest working. We see it in his videos, his wife's videos. The guy just never stops doing pass sets no matter where they are.
Yeah, it was really fun seeing how he does it in his kitchen. He does it, between his backyard, even when he's on vacation. I love when Sarah Zeitler's tweeting, "We're on a vacation week," and Kevin Zeitler's already trying to plan when it's appropriate for him to be practicing his pass sets. It's kind of funny. It's great. It's what you want out of a football player. But
And that's how you
Bobby,
become a top 5 pass
yeah,
blocking guard, by doing
really,
that.
really, and he's been doing it for a very long time, and he's been consistent at it. But also, it's just one of those things. I already mentioned, going back to 2015, he played 16 games. This is the first time in however many years that he's actually missed a game. It was only one game. Compare this to when we were we were feeling iffy about Richburg. We were feeling iffy about Pugh. While they're talented, they're missing games. While it's like, okay, good job by Jerry Reese of getting these guys in blue, but they can't stay in blue for 16 games. Kevin Zeitler's a guy. It's like, all right, again, guy that can anchor this line, a guy that's going to show up for you, week in and week out. And Bobby, before, I guess I have some numbers. They may not directly be related to Kevin Zeitler. Some are. For example, I'll just get this out of the way. 1 holding penalty all last year. And I'm pretty sure that penalty was declined anyway. It was declined by the defense, so it didn't even matter anyway. So 1 holding penalty, and the most that holding penalties that he's had in a single season was 2, which is crazy when you really think about it. And when I watch him, particularly on his pass sets, but this is also whether you were talking about, against when he's, with his run sets or pass sets, there's rarely a movement that is wasted. There's rarely a movement that Kevin Zeitler has, a step, where he's, choosing to put his shoulders, if he's putting a shoulder, if he's putting a forearm to a defender that's right in front of him, there's barely a wasted movement. Everything has a reason. Everything has a purpose. Everything is methodical. The footwork is there. Carl Banks talked about last year when he was initially acquired that he has very good, like, head and eye and feet balance. Like, his head is not moving faster than his feet or vice versa. Very, very methodical football player, kind of like you already said, Bobby.
Yeah, he's a technician. Let's talk about him in the run game a little bit.
Yeah.
As a puller, he's lightning quick. I mean, he shoots out of there like a cannon. In the run, in like regular blocks, he's worked a double team perfectly. He knows like when to stay on it and when to move off to a linebacker. He's always got like the right proportion with that. The only thing, Justin, is he's just not a mauler. That's not who he is. But you don't need him to be a mauler. You just need him to hold his, especially with a guy like Saquon behind him. That's what you need. And I know you talk about the way Saquon runs when he runs to the right compared to when he runs to the left.
Yep. Yeah, so actually that's pretty good transition because the Giants were actually much better. They fared much better when they were running towards the right side, according to Football Outsiders' adjusted line yards. So it's not just taking into account like average yards. We talked about what adjusted line yards were in a couple episodes with Anthony, but basically Giants were much better when rushing to the right compared to the left. Now you can say Saquon Barkley always has this tendency, even when he's rushing to his left, Bobby, he always likes to hold the ball in his right hand. Now, I'm pretty sure you're maybe supposed to switch over your ball carrying hand based off of the side that you're rushing to, but I'm not a coach. I'm not going to speculate all on that. But, because when you're running to your right side, Bobby, what you can do is you can stiff arm with that left hand, where if you're running to your left and you have the ball in your right hand, you can't stiff arm with your dominant hand. So there's that part of it, but also the right side of the Giants offensive line last year was just much stronger. Kevin Zeitler and Mike Remmers were a much better combination together compared to Will Hernandez and Nate Solder. So that's pretty obvious within itself. Also, Giants were the 7th most in the National Football League. They rushed up the middle and the guard 63% of the time. That was the 7th highest in the National Football League. That's a lot. I know, Bobby, you like to talk about how teams like the Vikings and teams like the Cardinals that do all these stretch plays and how fans love to complain about running up the middle and how we should run to the outside more. Fans love to complain about that, but I never realized just how much the Giants just ran up the middle, and that's what the NFL is. But if you're a bigger fan of rushing to the outside, Jason Garrett's offense, they're going to be bringing that down a little bit more to like the 47% to 52% range of only rushing it up the middle then. So that's going to be less pressure for Kevin Zeitler.
All right, so we project him to be good in 2021. This is what I want to finish it off with. Do you think there's any path to where somehow we see Shane Lemieux, whether it's by injury or what, and the Giants move on from him in 2021 to save $12.5 million or 12 million in cap space.
I would hope not, because the Giants are still in somewhat of a good situation cap wise. And I really do think Zeitler is a leader. I think you saw it last year. He came in and he kind of gelled the group immediately because of his consistency. This is a guy that you want around. I don't care if he, however old he is, Bobby, he's still relatively young where you don't mind it. An offensive lineman, they can make it a little bit into their 30s. I want him around. I think he's the gel that I think he really gels this group together, and I don't want him going anywhere.
I agree. All right, let's take a break and move the defense.